Innervision, taking you to a new level of Christian radio. www.innervisionrecords.org, the official website of Innervision.
Send us feedback, requests.
Help spread the word about local musicians. We are Inner FM.
Welcome to Innervision FM. My name is Johnnie J, and once again, we're interrupting your traffic flow while you're sitting in the car driving home from work to showcase another member of the community that's doing something very interesting and something very special. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here on KUVO 92.2 on the FM dial. And these shows will be re-aired on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So I'd like to welcome to our little radio interview here, Jim Johnson, and you're the director at Denver School of Rock?
That's correct. I'm the owner and general manager at School of Rock Denver. Okay. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. So tell me, when you got started in this, did you see that there was something missing as far as like students being taught like the professionalism of music?
That's definitely a huge part of it. Of course, we want to have students who come out of our program as well-rounded musicians, in terms of their playing ability and their skill level with that. But another big important part of it is, how to behave professionally in a performance situation. Everything from, being responsible for selling tickets to their shows, which they have to do, to getting through sound check, and making sure that they're not driving the sound engineer crazy, being able to follow the directions, being able to set up gear correctly, all those other things that it takes to be, a solid professional musician.
So I think what I was looking at the website, it's from beginners to the middle and maybe like even seasoned musicians as well, or is it not so much seasoned but just the beginning to the middle?
Well, we can really accommodate any skill level. We've got students in our program who are playing at a very, very high level. And our curriculum, our materials can basically get them through an audition for a college music program if they put in the time and practice and prepare, the way that they ought to. But our programs start at preschoolers who are generally pretty inexperienced when they come to see us. Mm-hmm. And then, we've got students that are, graduating high school and getting ready to go into college music programs, too.
I'm going to start at the young end, because my wife always tells me, it's like, and where she's from, they want to start the kids as soon as they can, like 3, 4 years old.
Yeah.
How young do you go, and what is that process like?
Well, we can start them as early as 3 in our preschool program, and it's not too heavy. We're going to teach them basic musical concepts like rhythm and pitch and tone. We do that through games and activities that require movement, to get them as engaged as possible. Listen with your whole body. That kind of thing. And then we also expose them to, kid-friendly rock songs from about the past 5 decades or so, and get them ready to perform, because everybody at the school has an opportunity to perform, even our really, young preschool kids. So they might get up on stage and, sing the chorus to a Little Richard tune or, something fairly easy. But the idea is to just give them that experience and help them fall in love with music and with playing music. That's what we're really trying to accomplish with kids that young.
Now, I'm thinking, because if parents get involved, uncles, grandparents, all these people will come to see the performance, so those tickets are probably a lot easier to sell than the younger you are.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. But, when they do perform, it's at a school-wide show. And so they will be the first act to go up, are the really young kids. And so they usually get a really enthusiastic response from a very, very full venue. And then once they're done, with their part of the performance, we move up through the age groups. And so by the time we get to the end of that big school-wide show, you're probably going to be hearing some older students playing some fairly advanced material.
So, going back and getting them ready for that, is your semesters broken up in like 3 months increments, or?
We do 3 seasons a year. So right now we're about in the middle of our fall-winter season, and we started the week after Labor Day. All the students have been rehearsing and will continue, and then we will have our shows in January. And then right after we wrap those shows, we start a whole new season for spring that goes from the beginning of February to the end of May, and then a summer season that's the beginning of June to the end of August. And so we just repeat the cycle and keep doing it that way.
Now, you're dealing with creative people. How much structure do you have to have without making it too much into cutting out the creativity?
There's always room for creativity, just the style that you play it with, or, an improvised solo or something like that. All of those have a very obvious creative element. We are also in the business of educating, and sometimes, you got to hit the basics too. But we generally try and leave the door open for as much creativity within the structure that we have. And some of the stuff we have is, pretty well structured. Most of our material are, rock songs. And that's what the kids have signed up to play, and that's what we use to teach them. So it might be, for instance, we have a guitarist who needs to learn, a pentatonic scale. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds here with like technical musical stuff, but, a fairly simple sort of bluesy scale. And, we'll say, okay, this is, your next step to progress as a musician. Let's go listen to some AC/DC, because they are the masters of the pentatonic scale. And so that might be the next show that kid signs up for, is the AC/DC tribute. And that way they are going to get that technical background that's appropriate for their skill level, And as the kids progress, they can take on more and more challenging material.
Now, in this technological world, with videotapes and recordings, like a football team, they may play a game and then they will go back into the locker room and watch to see what mistakes they made, how did they do this. How do you use today's technology to help be that mirror for the student?
There are a couple of different ways. Our lessons happen in person. We don't do them over the web or anything like that. So the kid will come in with their instrument and get that real-time feedback from their instructor. But we encourage them to record themselves and listen to themselves. One of my favorite things to say is the tape does not lie. And you may think you're playing it right, and all it takes is listening to it one time and realizing what's really going on, and maybe there are a couple things in there that they're going to have to clean up that they wouldn't have necessarily noticed when they were in the moment playing, but become much more obvious when they're listening back to it.
Let me ask you this, because I experienced this, and because you run through you see a lot of students at different levels. Do you ever get like a student that's tone deaf, and you have to say, maybe this is not for you?
I try to never say that to a student. If they want to be there and they want to put the work in, we're going to make it happen. I've had a lot of people tell me that they were tone deaf over the years. I can't do music, I'm tone deaf. And a lot of times it is more due to, no real experience with ear training. Whether it's hearing the intervals between notes, being able to follow a tune. When you think about some of like the tonal languages, Asian languages like Vietnamese or Chinese, you have the same word that you're saying, but the tone and pitch of your voice completely changes the meaning with that. And for somebody to be able to say I'm tone deaf, what they're saying to me is I could never learn a language like that. My ear doesn't hear the tone. Well, it probably could. Your nerves work. Your brain can process it. It's more a matter of getting that experience to really hear the differences and to listen for those differences in the tone. Yeah.
Now, if you're just joining us here on Innervision FM, broadcast on Denver Open Media, KUVO 92.9 on the FM dial, talking to Jim, the owner and manager of Denver School of Rock,
Mm-hmm.
and we're discussing his school and some of the benefits the students are getting out of being taught by really seasoned musicians and being taught just the basics to the middle to the end of performing live and getting out there and showcasing their art. Right? Mm-hmm. What I want to know now is okay, so go beyond the what you do with students that say that they might be tone deaf and how you overcome that. What gets me, and I hate to say it, only time I ever hear this, and is at churches where I hear a guitar player who did not tune their guitar, and it drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy too.
So how did you work on? Because I know there's a way of tuning your guitar and getting that ear for tuning your instrument. Or
mm-hmm. Yeah, I would prefer that our students don't tune their instruments by ear. Okay. That we want them to use a tuner for that. We want them to learn how to use it and tune their instrument correctly, because your ear hears relative pitch, and it can be very deceiving sometimes. You may think like you're, again, with the bass or the guitar, your sort of baseline pitch is that open E string, and you have to get that right if you're going to get the other strings right, if you're going to tune it by ear. Well, you may not hear an E the same way I do. My idea of what the pitch of an E might be a little bit sharper, a little bit flatter than what it actually is, and so I want to make sure that they learn how to tune their instruments properly. Because you don't want to walk into a room with 4 kids, none of whom are in tune. That play, and one of the things that we do tell them is like, you've got to tune every time, because you could be playing this song perfectly, and if you were out of tune, I'd never know. Your hand might be in the right place, you may be playing everything in the right position, but if you're out of tune, you are not playing that song correctly. You've got to do the right thing on an instrument that's in tune. It's vitally important.
Also, because of the climate we're in, sometimes you might pull an instrument out and it's cold and it changes the tuning sometimes,
mm-hmm.
right?
Oh, don't leave your guitar in your car truck. Okay. Without, on a winter day or something like that. Because, you're absolutely right. Cold temperatures, for instance, will make the metal strings on a guitar or bass contract. And all of a sudden, hey, you're playing real sharp now. Not really great for the instrument either to subject it to wild temperature swings like we experience, in Colorado. And so generally, for instance, what we would tell somebody is like, if you need to put your instrument away for a little while, make sure you loosen the strings on your guitar. And that way, you won't put a whole bunch of wear on them by having them get cold and warm and expand and contract. And that's a good way to weaken your guitar strings. Because
I love playing the guitar. I'm not the best, but I love the guitar. So what about these other instruments like the drums, saxophone? What are the little nuances about those instruments that when you're preparing the students to play as one?
We don't do a lot of horns. I've got a ton of experience playing horns, just from, my previous musical experience before, getting into this school. But in terms of playing in a group, I think the thing that everybody has to realize is you need your ears. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your hands if your ears aren't involved. And that's, I think, with playing in a band, that's the most important thing you can do, is be aware of what's going on around you and where you fit into that group. And that will inform your playing and how you fit together with the group.
Now, there's a place up in Colorado Springs that I went to that they work on ear monitors, which I think that's the newest thing.
Yeah.
How do you guys work with what you hear on the stage and positioning musicians and on the stage and the monitor? Because that seems to be a big thing.
Yeah, well, and really that comes back to the sound check. We don't use in-ear monitors with our students just because, from song to song, we may have a completely different group of kids in a show, from one song to the next. And so, they don't normally carry, custom-made in-ear monitors with them. So we'll use, stage monitors, the big box at the front of the stage. And at that point, what we really need to teach them is how to communicate with the sound engineer during sound check to make sure that no matter what the audience is hearing, they can hear what they need to hear on the stage. So, for instance, your drummer may have the bass turned up really high in the monitor that they're using because the drummer and the bassist need to be locked in. Whereas, for instance, a keys player might want a little bit more vocals or guitar in the mix because they've got to try and fit the part they're playing in with these other parts like a puzzle. And so that's one of the nice things about an on-stage monitor mix is the individual musicians can hear what they need to hear within the music, even if it's not the same thing that the audience is getting. That's up to the sound engineer to figure out what the audience is going to hear once you've sort of, passed the sound on to them. But it's also their job to make sure that what you're hearing on the stage is what you need to hear to be able to play your music correctly.
Now, I really only know very well this one song guy, we call him Brother Rob, and he did sound engineering for this TV show we used to do. And when you bring in like a sound person, do you do the sound operation for that, or do you bring in other sound guys to give the student a chance to work with different sound people?
That'll usually happen by default. We play at a lot of different venues. All of our shows are done at rock clubs. And so when we do something like that, we will use the house sound engineer. They know the system, they know the room. That's who I want to work with. I can run sound, and I have, for some of our smaller shows, or if we're playing in a place where the PA is not built into the room. We've got a PA system, and I can run it. My studio coordinator can run it. My music director can run it. Whoever needs to can run it. But the vast majority of the shows that we do are in venues that already have a sound system, and then we work with their sound engineer. And the idea is to get our students to the point where they can work with any sound engineer just by following the directions, that are given to them. You've got to listen to your sound engineer.
Now, I also want to find out, it's like, okay, most clubs, some clubs, they don't have a cabaret license, so they can't have younger people in. So how did you locate these clubs that that, okay, I could bring in a mixture of artists from young to older?
In terms of the ages?
Yeah, without messing with the liquor license and all that kind of stuff.
Most of the venues all the venues that we work with are able to accommodate that. Most of the venues in town can accommodate that. If it makes sense to them. But a lot of the shows we do, especially with, the younger kids in them really, will be on an afternoon, on a weekend, a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Generally, the club doesn't have a lot going on. They were going to be dark and empty anyway.
Oh, okay.
We can fill it up with an audience. And so, it's worth their while to make sure that they're open and able to get those kids up on the stage. But the majority of venues that we contact about doing shows are able to accommodate having kids in there. It's just a matter of, how do they want to separate that from their 21 and over productions that they do.
Now, I had a friend, I met him when I was, I think, 13, he was 12, and he's a piano player. And when I and other kids were out playing, he would go home 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he would practice sometimes until 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, that was me when I was younger.
Yeah. So what do you tell these guys about, like, practice time, being prepared before you hit the stage? And do you see, like, some of you had to go by, like, okay, now, I know you didn't practice as much as you could.
We say that a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you? So what's the criteria of reinforcing that? Like, don't only do it here, but go home and practice this.
To me, it's not so much as about the time as what you are doing with your time. Right? And so I'm not going to, we wouldn't say to a student necessarily, you need to practice for 30 minutes. We can say, these are the things you need to do while you're practicing. I would suspect it's going to take you about an hour to get through all of this the right way. You know, it's far more important to get it done correctly than to just put repetitions in. I had this band director when I was in junior high, and he was always after everybody to practice, because he should be, and we should have been, you know. And his thing he would always tell us was, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And if you put in the time and learn something wrong, it is going to be very, very hard to learn to do that the right way. You're going to have to forget everything you just put in all this time doing. Do it correctly, and it'll be a far more valuable use of your time than just sort of, you know, logging the hours, getting in the reps, you know. It needs to be thoughtful, focused practice. And that's really where the quality of an instructor, of a teacher, comes into play, because they need to be able to give the individual student the instructions that they need to succeed, to learn a song, you know, and they need to be able to say, this is how we're going to break it down. On this part of the song, you need to do this and focus on it. And it may be just like 3 notes that they've got to get right, but you got to get it right. And so it's vitally important that the instructors are able to explain to the students how to break these things down and work on them, so that when you put the parts back together, the whole song comes together the way it should. That's really the key to thoughtful practice.
Let's get back to the business part of it.
Sure.
Because now we got the show part. I mean, they're getting down the show part. Now let's see, turn it around. Let's make some money off of this talent that God has given these guys, because not everybody can do this. Not everybody has the strive, the ambition to do this. How do you get into the business part of this, which is selling those tickets, negotiating? What kind of classes do you offer in that?
You know, a lot of the ticket sales that they do, fortunately, are just to their family and friends. You know, we don't make it too hard of a sell for them. You know, I do think that learning the business part is vitally important. You know, if you want to make a career in music, you got to learn the business that you're getting into. And I think for a long time, people have had this dream where, you know, their band is going to get signed to a record label and they're going to be millionaire rock stars forever. And that's one way to do it. And the chances of that happening are about the same as the chances of hitting the lottery, if that's your plan for the future. And a lot of those folks will end up the same way that lottery winners do. Broke in a couple of years, no idea how to manage their money. You know, they didn't really think about it, they spent it everywhere, and then all of a sudden, there you are, poor again.
The ride is over.
Yeah. You know, the other option is to, you know, learn about the music business. Maybe take some music business classes at school as part of your music program, and find out that there's more out there to being a professional musician than being a rock star selling out arenas. You can get into composition, you know, for TV and movies and things like that. You know, I know a lot of people that I grew up with that, you know, wanted to be professional musicians, and they're writing TV and radio jingles, and that's their bread and butter while they're out with their friends playing the music they like, but they're making a solid living doing that, you know? And you look at that as more of like a self-made success story. And those are the people, they're going to do all right, and they're going to be able to manage their business and their lives and their financial situation correctly. And, you know, we do give a good introduction to that, but you're only going to get so far teaching 10-year-olds about the music business. Right. You know, some of it maybe is more appropriate for people who are a little closer to making that jump to doing it professionally. But we do try and teach good practice. You know, that's the important thing. What are your best practices for being a working musician?
Now, as I understand it, in the 80s, 90s, maybe even sometime in these years, they took music out of school because we don't have enough money to fund that kind of stuff. So did you see that as the inroad to say, let's get this thing started? Was that one of the motivations that got you involved with this, seeing that schools are not teaching this anymore? So why I feel that void?
Yeah, for me, that was actually like pretty much my primary motivation. I've always enjoyed playing, and the reason I've been able to enjoy it so much is because I was lucky enough to grow up in a place that had a very well-funded music program in the schools. My parents, my dad's been playing, keys for over almost 70 years now at this point. Wow. He's the one who really got me into it. Many, many thanks, Dad. My parents were very supportive of that. They paid for my lessons. They bought instruments for me and my siblings, and gave us as much encouragement as we needed to do it. And that was one of the reasons that, I wanted to run this school, the School of Rock, because I saw these opportunities slipping away from kids. And this is a way to be able to provide that, that musical foundation in a way that, unfortunately, we're just not able to, rely on the schools to deliver the way, that maybe it was 20, 30 years ago even.
Now, because we have a few more minutes left. Are the classes small?
Well, the private lessons are one-on-one.
Okay.
Generally, for the younger kids, they'll never see a class that's got more than 8 to 10 kids in it. And if we got 10 kids in a class with younger students, we're going to have, like an instructor and an assistant in there just to kind of, keep things in order. Right. For our older kids, the performance program, which is generally kids from about 10 to 18 or so, the bands will usually have 15 to 20 kids in it. And what they'll do is they'll switch off instruments. So, we'll have a group that's playing a certain song, and then when the next song comes up, we've got a completely different group of kids playing on it. But all the songs on that show are grouped together by a theme. So, for instance, right now, our older students, we've got one group working on an Iron Maiden versus Judas Priest show. So it's all British metal. We have got a glam rock show, right? So all the kids on that show are playing like T-Rex and Kiss and Rob Zombie and things like that. And then we've got different shows that we're doing each season with a larger group of kids, and then they're all assigned individual songs that they play. Because really, none of those kids are going to be able to master 20 or so songs to play an entire show on their own in the time that they've got. So this allows them, by having them work in groups like that, it allows them the time to really focus hard on getting these songs just exactly right. And that's the goal, is to get them just the way they were written, just the way they were performed by the original artist. That's where the learning experience is.
All right. Give us a way that people can contact you and learn more about your school, and go to the website and sign up and do all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, our website is denver.schoolofrock.com. Our email is denver@schoolofrock.com, or you can give us a call, 720-221-6991. If you come in, we're going to set you up with a free 30-minute trial lesson. I want to make sure you like it. That's the thing. We can help. We've got resources to help people get instruments, if they need some help with that. We've got a lot of great partners, here in the city. Some great folks out there that are really on the same mission we are, that can help a kid, get their first guitar, their first drum set, without putting their parents in the poorhouse.
Okay. And give that information one more time so people are running for the pins.
Yeah. Denver.schoolofrock.com. That's our website. It'll have descriptions of all of our programs and stuff like that. If you'd like to, just shoot us an email with some questions, or you want to, book a trial lesson, email us at denver@schoolofrock.com. Or if you want to just give us a ring, you can call us at 720-221-6991. And we're located right in the middle of downtown, right off of Grant and Alameda, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very
right
close.
in the middle of everything.
Oh, yeah. So, Jim John, I'd really like to thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Much success. Want to let people know that you can hear these shows on Wednesdays at from 8 o'clock to 8:30 a.m. on KUVO 92.9 on the FM dial, Denver Open Media. And you can contact Innervision here if you want to book your self on our show at info@innervisionfm.com. That's info@innervisionfm.com. Till the next time, God bless. See you then.
Isn't it fun to sing along to the radio? If you could help someone else have that same experience and take it to the next level, Maybe you would consider donating an old car, RV, truck, or boat. You know, for over 15 years, Innervision has been helping the physically challenged and grassroots artists to create their music. Using music to heal the world is Innervision's gift to you, and you can help them to continue by donating your unwanted car, RV, truck, or boat. You'll also receive a tax deduction at the end of the year. Call us 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 1-855-500-7433. That's 1-855-500-7433. Charity ID 4015. Your unwanted car, RV, truck, or boat is tax deductible, and it can make a difference right here in Colorado. The artists at Innervision thank you for your support. Make that call toll-free using Innervision's charity ID 4015. Again, the phone number 1-855-500-7433.